How beautiful is that? Oh, absolutely stunning. It is going to be a hot day here in the Lowveld. Again, as I said before, I am Noelle, and on camera I have Sebastian.
Morning, everyone.
He's saying good morning, everyone. All right. We are live. This is interactive. You can follow us on #SafariLive or on the YouTube chat. Last night, about 5 minutes after we wrapped the show, we found Shadow. And Shadow was up and down, eating some baby mice, and then here or there. So this morning, we are trying to find Shadow. She looked like she was hungry. She looked like she was out to be hunting. And so we're just going to pull around this little area and check maybe Treehouse Dam, check maybe Zoe's, Rebecca's. We're trying to see. I'm trying to pick up her tracks for now and see if we get lucky with that. A lot of hyena tracks around, of course, up and down. And so we're going to be hopeful and hold thumbs, cross fingers, cross arms, and cross toes, and see if we get lucky with her this morning. I hope everybody had a wonderful evening or day, depending on where you are. And while I'm busy trying to see where Madam Shadow is, let's head over to our walking safari and see what they're up to.
Good morning everybody, and welcome to the walking side of the Sunrise Safari. The sun has come up. My name is James Hendry. And Wim Dorenbraak is on camera. That is his thumb. And for those of you who are new viewers, you might think that Wim was 6'5" from the length of his thumb. He isn't, in fact. He is also 5 feet and 8 inches tall. Just a very unusually large thumb. We have got Herbert on security. There he is. Slightly, shall we say, Milan ramp-esque form this morning. Good. Anyway, our plan today, while you're talking to us on social media using the #SafariLive or the chat stream on YouTube, is to head once again for the third morning in a row down towards Treehouse Dam. Why? We're hoping perhaps the Styx Pride will come back onto the reserve, and then from there, if they haven't come back, we're going to go off towards the east into the rising sun and see if we can't pick up on some leopard tracks. Unfortunately, we have a small technical glitch with one of the towers, which means we can't go off towards the far western sides and try and pick up Shadow's tracks there. I suspect that's possibly where she is. Maybe also, of course, those wild dogs that were around here yesterday will come back onto Juma. So that would be great fun. That is the general play today. We'll see what else we can find. Slowly, the flowers are starting to emerge from the wilderness. Also, the insects are starting to come. And I don't know if you saw it yesterday, but Noelle had the most beautiful little beetle we've kind of all discussed. We think it was a beetle last night. So that and various other little insects and delights will no doubt, little treasures, will be found lurking under the fresh grass shoots and in amongst the blossoms and budding leaves of the low-felt vegetation. And I think Kenya will be joining us in about half an hour. They take a little longer to get out of bed up there for some reason, possibly because they are, an hour in front of us. Look, we've got some... This is wonderful. There's another one. We've got 2 species of roller here, and the lilac-breasted version is the one that Wim is trying to want to know the history behind this walking stick. Well, there isn't really one, I don't think. I think I picked it up off the ground, shaved the bark off it, and then it became my walking stick. It's probably about 6 months old now. I'd love to sort of have told... Look at them all. I'd love to have told you a story about how it was handed down to me by an ancient Shangaan tradition, and that it stretched back to the time of the great Soshangane himself, and that he used this to deliver his speeches when inspiring his warriors before going into battle. But that would have been a lie. There's the purple roller on. Can you see that tree leaning up slightly to the right? He's in the fork there, I think. You can hear them shouting at each other. Now he's moved on from there. Let's just move very slowly along. The strident calling is them. And there's another little bird here, actually, on this tree. You see the black bird there? It certainly looks like a drongo. It is a forked-tailed drongo. There we go, now VM's caught the roller, and I'm hoping it's going to do its roll. There, it is doing it, but it's now doing it behind a tree, obviously. They're going crazy, the two species of roller, unrelated, well, I mean, they're related to each other, but they're not competition. There's the purple one. They're obviously all nesting at the moment, looking for tree holes. They will be competing for tree holes. There they are. Oh, I wonder if there isn't a hole there. It's exactly where you might expect to find a tree hole in a knot of a marula tree. I don't think you're hearing quite what I'm hearing, but they are shouting at each other, very upset. The lilac-breasted rollers are upset with each other and the purple roller. There's a cuckoo in the background as well. Good. Come on then, let's have a quick look at the sun. There it is. Rising orange out of a very hazy sky, which is odd for this time of year. I guess it must be, you know what I think that is? I think it's probably moisture that's coming off the earth from the amount of rain we've had in the last few days. Shall we continue, Vyumpi? Colbert, you're wondering about common birds and what the most common bird we find at Juma is. Ooh. I mean, when the quailias are here, the red-billed quailias, they would be the most common birds, because of course they're the most common bird in the world, or the most abundant bird in the world. Before I answer your question, abundant and common are two often incorrectly interchangeable words, incorrectly interchanged words. Abundant means purely numbers, the most birds. So the most abundant bird in the world is the red-billed quailia. But most common would be the one that is sort of distributed the most widely. And so in this area it's probably the same. You know, if you take a small area, then you'll find it's the same two species. But when the quailias are not here, they're nomadic. They're not migratory, but they're nomadic. When they're not here, I would say it's probably one of the starling species. We get a lot of starlings here. Greater blue-eared, Cape glossy, and birchals are the most common ones. And I'd say it's probably one of those. Lots of lilac-breasted rollers. But I'm going to go with one of the starling species. I think they would probably be the most common. Alrighty. Seem to have lost Herbert already, which is a bit distressing for this time of the morning. Oh, there he is. I see him. I see him, fear not. Let's go over to this marula tree here and have a look-see. Now, if you come over here, if I might trouble you, VM, to bring yourself in this direction. You can see what happens when a branch is broken off a marula tree like this. Often what happens is the heartwood rots, and while this isn't necessarily going to make a very good tree hole for something like a roller, it is how many of the tree holes in this area form. So a woodland kingfisher, a roller, starling, or even a hornbill might easily come and try and seek out a nest in a tree like this. And you can see that without these big trees, it would be very difficult for the birds to nest at all. There's also some rather interesting stuff in here. Sort of rotting organic soil. And I bet if you put that on your vegetable patch, you would have some extremely nutritious vegetables. While you consider vegetables, we're going to go across to Noelle now, as she is looking for tracks.
To treehouse. Alright, so I've picked up some tracks, but it's not necessarily the tracks that we wanted. But that being said, let's have a little look-see. Here we go. All right, so this is a lion, and back there was lions. So basically what I'm looking at is 1, 2, 3 lobes at the back, 4 toes in front, and the size of it, if you look at this, I mean, look, there are leopards, male leopards with sizes of that, but it's not that's huge. And one of the reasons why I'm also going with lion is the shape of the pad, and then also back there we had some smaller lion tracks with it. And I'm wondering if the sticks are in the area. I don't know of any other lions with small youngsters at the moment that come into our area. Sorry, let me just plug back in. So what I want to do, because they're heading, there's east, we're heading west, I just want to come down to the water first and then pull around like that and make a loop and see what we can come up with. Now, these happened last night, earlier in the night. So where we had shadow in comparison to where these tracks are is not far, and shadow does like this area, but they're going to be from round about the same time. So they would have moved off before shadow was here, or came back here if she did come back here. I still haven't picked up any tracks from her. But we will have to see. Interesting, the puzzles. Scarlett, you're wondering what I love most about the early mornings in the bush. Scarlett, it has to be the light and the temperature. Out in the sky is going to be hot. So, especially in summer when it's very, very, very warm here, it's a good respite from the forthcoming heat. Sure. Yeah, you see, look at all of these tracks. All right. I think this is the sticks. That would be my thought. And that is from the amount and the size and the makeup of that pride. So, that being said, I think
Righty, sorry about that. Like I said, we do have a small technical difficulty with the tower over that away, and so that's why you lost Noelle there. I found a really nice piece of grass I wanted to show you, but then I thought I'll find another one and I'll show you that one, and now I can't see it anymore. Wait, I'll find it. As the Senegal lapwings fly over the top of us. It was the first piece of chloris grass, and I wanted to get it shining in the morning light. But one cannot go back on oneself, can one, Liam?
No, only forward.
Exactly, we can only move forward. Anyway, I'm sure I'll find another thing or two. There it is. Here we go. No. And you're wondering about bees, hugely important insect, and you say, are they out and about yet? And do we have a healthy population here? I would imagine that the bees in this area, yes, they probably do have a healthy population. I don't know what an unhealthy population would be. We do get swarms flying over from time to time. We find hives from time to time in and around this area. Remember, it's not a particularly flower-rich area, but if you go to, say, a flowering zebrawood tree, and there's one in our camp, which is very beautiful, you find lots of bees around them. I think you'll find that bees really struggle because natural landscapes have been taken over by agriculture, which brings with it the associated monocultures, it brings with it associated pesticides, and obviously that sort of thing doesn't sort of help with bees, or help for bees, help with bees, help the bees, whatever. It doesn't help the bees. And that's why we have such a dearth of them. But in natural areas like this, extensive natural areas, you'll probably find that the populations are pretty healthy. And of course, without bees, there'd be nothing for us to eat, would there? You hear these horrific stories of people having to... I think it was a story about a farm in China where they have workers whose sole responsibility is to mimic bees with paintbrushes. They have to take paintbrushes... There's a leopard calling down in the Mlwamati drainage. Probably a male. We'll head down that way. That will give us a nice goal for the morning. Anyway, while we do that, so they have to take these paintbrushes and they have to touch them on pollen and then go and touch the stigmas of the different plants that they're trying to pollinate, because the bees have just disappeared entirely from those areas. So it really is a problem, and I know that in the wineries of the Cape there's a huge worry, because I think the bees are very important for vine pollination. So, for if the Cape ran out of wine, the country would probably collapse entirely. I can feel the nodding of heads from the final control as we speak. Everybody considering a life without Cape wines. Turtle, yes, they are. You say, are the mosquitoes bad yet? The mosquitoes are never very good in this area. I remember, I skipped winter this year, which was great because I was up in Kenya. But last year, the mosquitoes didn't leave even during the winter time, and they are back. Well, certainly, they are very enthusiastic in the early summer, and I sleep under a mosquito net now, and I've got to tell you, it was the first time I've done it. It is an enormous satisfaction to me to hear them coming now, and then you hear them going... as they hit the net, and they're unable to get near my face or my body, and I feel a tremendous sense of victory over the mosquitoes. It remains to be seen how bad the malaria will be this year. It was certainly very bad last year, not necessarily where we are, but certainly in the communities outside the reserve, the malaria was dreadful. Alrighty. Whoops. Okay, we need to move relatively quickly now, otherwise we're not going to get anything. Herbert's disappeared into the sun. Let's head across to Noel. I'm not sure if she's going to head towards that leopard calling. She may well. So while we try and catch up with Herbie, go and see what she's doing.
Okay, we have more lion tracks. Sorry, Chris, did you hear a leopard call? I missed that. Well, not you, but James. James heard a male calling the Mwati. All right, well, our lion tracks are here. We can see them nicely on the screen moving to our south. And then it looks like they cross the road and head more south and west. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave them here. I'm not going to be able to follow them through any further. We're going to have to wait and see if they come a little bit more east for us to be able to find them. So I think what we're going to do then, no shadow tracks. These lions are moving into an area that I can't go into. So I think I'm going to go help James that side with that leopard calling the Mwati. We might get lucky. Maybe it's Mvula, maybe it's Tingana. Hosanna was at Little Gallery last night. Maybe he came across. I'm not sure if Hosanna is vocalizing yet, but that's a possibility. So I think let's do that. So we're going to have to turn around and sort of head back the way that we came and meander over there to get into a good position. Everything's around. It's all about finding it and being able to then to then show you. So let's do that. In the meantime, though, I think let's just listen for a minute. There's a lot of really good bird calls going on. Can you guys hear that in the background? Okay, that is a scimitarbill. Scimitarbill is very similar to a wood hoopoe or just a hoopoe. It has that decurved beak, that over curvature of the beak. Ooh, he's calling nicely there. All right, this is him. So the scimitarbill has that beautiful little iridescence, a little bit of white on the wing, black decurved beak. The green wood hoopoe that's up at the top is more in groups and chatters more like a babbler. That would be my best description of it. And a lot more colorful, whereas the scimitarbill is usually just in ones or twos and much smaller and much more nondescript. Okay, then the other one that we would get here would be the African hoopoe. He says hoopoo poo poo, hoopoo poo poo, and usually single or in pairs. All right. So while we are busy turning around and heading back the other way and listening for more bird calls and trying to pick up on lion and leopard, let's see if we can find anything else to chat with you about while we are looking. Becca, what an interesting question. What is the loudest bird we get here? Look, Becca, I think for me, it would be sort of how close the bird is to you, about the loudness. I'm trying to think of a bird that is just exceptionally loud. One that I can think of whose voice really does carry is the ground hornbill. Ooh, toot, toot, toot. That call carries very, very far. It's a very deep, deep, deep call. I used to have a red-chested cuckoo, Piet my fro, who lived outside a window of mine and would call incessantly through the night. So he's not always loud, but then was loud, and yeah, he and I were not friends.
Guinea fowls are loud.
Seb is saying guinea fowls are loud. Guinea fowls are loud. Yes, they definitely are. There's the southern ground hornbill. All right, and they stand to 90 to 130 centimeters. So with my hands, I might have to span out a little bit, about this tall. So that's what, a foot and a bit, 2 foot, roughly. I would guesstimate for the ground hornbill. So I'm going to be going through a bad little patch just now as I turn around. So if you lose me, I'm so sorry. Maybe our cheeky lions will come out just on the road up here. Maybe they just went in a little bit. But I have a feeling that they've went way more to the west. Turtle, you're asking if there are any birds that don't call at all. Turtle, as far as I know, all birds have some sort of a call, an audio way to communicate, whether it's territory or for mating. I don't think I've ever heard of a silent bird. Also an interesting question. Turtle, not off the top of my head. I do not think that there's a bird that doesn't call, as far as I know. Do you know, Turtle, of a bird that doesn't call somewhere else in the world, maybe? And does a kiwi make a call? That would be interesting. That would be in New Zealand, but that was an interesting thought. Okay. All right, guys. Yeah, definitely going to head more towards the Mulwati, where James heard that male leopard call. I have a feeling that these lions have moved farther to our west, where we're not going to be able to get. I'm so sorry. All right, let's head over to James, who's also searching.
Hello again, everyone. We have now reached the valley of the Umluamati. But it's still up in front of us. We've got some alarm-calling, rattling cisticolas. And this is round about where we thought we heard Tingana calling. Well, we were assuming it was Tingana. The thing is, he's only called once. And, you know, it was around here, so we've had to take a gamble. Has he headed north or has he headed south? So is he going towards the Vuyatela Dam or is he going down towards Twin Dams? And I would suggest you keep an eye on the Juma Dam just to see if he doesn't pop past there. So we're now going to head down into the drainage line and see if we can't pick up his tracks. For those of you... Graham's got himself snagged. For those of you who are uninitiated in leopard behaviour, they will often spend time not in, but on the fringes of these drainage systems because of the trees and bushes that they offer. So they offer cover. And so you would expect to find a leopard lurking through this kind of vegetation. And Liam was just saying to me that he's seen Tingana, only once on foot. Yeah, a few times on foot, but that he doesn't like being seen on foot. I don't think that I've seen him on foot. I can't remember having a good sighting of him on foot. Here's Herbie now. So what he will do is he'll come through an area like this, and he'll go and check the pans. Not Herbie, I mean the leopard. And so Herbert is doing the same. So what we'll do is go up to this pan here and just see if there aren't some tracks. You'd expect to see him if he was lying down. He'd be in the shadows just underneath the trees. Any tracks? Nothing, says Herbert. So let's pop our heads over the top here. Some woodland kingfishers shouting at each other. Some hornbills. Now that's kind of, you might find him walking through there as well. So whoever the zoomie is on the Juma Dam cam at the moment, just maybe zoom right out and see if he doesn't pitch up there. He could easily be heading towards Twin Dams. Just while Herbert has a look, isn't this tree almost fairy tale like? Let me stand underneath it. And if I was a leopard, I think this is where I would come and sit. It's a tambuti tree. And it makes the most lovely smelling wood. I wonder if we can't... Hang on a second. Let me see if I I can't find a piece of wood. Oh, sorry, are we going across to Kenya? Right, we're going to go across now to Kenya, to Jamie, who has got some fighting animals that wear stripy things.
Very good morning and welcome to a somewhat aggressive start for a Sunday morning here in the Masai Mara, where we've got a pair of, oh goodness, speed wobble, a pair of sparring zebra. But first, a quick introduction, because you've just changed countries and you're now in an entirely different place. You've been in South Africa, you are now in the Masai Mara of Kenya. My name is Jamie, and this morning Archie is on camera with me once again. For those of you that haven't seen the last few safaris, Adrian and Archie have been here on a job interview and they've been doing a marvelous job. Oh, I was about to say let's have another look at the sparring zebra, but it's breakfast time. Good boys. That is exactly what Sunday mornings are for. Not for fighting, for eating. I think you'll all agree. Don't forget, because this is a live safari, we're still live even though we are in Kenya, that you can send through your questions on #SafariLive on Twitter. Right. Well, since our zebra have decided to go back to breakfast as opposed to sparring, I think what Archie and I are going to do is we're going to go and race to where we had that leopard yesterday on the sunset safari. And if you missed it, we had an extraordinary sighting, something that we definitely don't see all that often, in fact hardly ever, and that was a big male leopard on a giraffe kill in a tree. There wasn't much left, but I'm hoping if we get there early enough we'll catch him as he starts to move away from that. But Archie and Adrian have done a good job. I'm sure you'll all join me in giving them a round of applause. Good luck, Kirst. I'm in one of those moods. Once we go down that route, then it's a vicious circle. Oh dear. Maybe too much for a Sunday morning, I think you'll agree. Kirsty just said, oh no. Oh no. Fair enough. So off we go to and see the shepherd's tree male leopard, the dominant male leopard of basically sausage tree pride area. So we've got the shepherd's tree male leopard and the sausage tree lions all in one place. Very convenient. We'll call it the Balanites hyenas and we'll have the complete collection. Perhaps the woolly caper bush female cheetah. No, let's not go all the way down that route. Oh, little long claws. I'm not going to stop for birds now, because if we don't get there soon enough. Yep, Sandra, you heard me right. A leopard on a giraffe kill. It's not common, but it does happen. And it was a baby giraffe, so that is essentially the biggest prey animal that you will see a leopard with in a tree. It's very unusual. I know that there are pictures of the Anderson male back in South Africa on a giraffe kill. Just imagine the sheer strength involved for that leopard to get a giraffe from the ground into a tree. It's a phenomenal feat of strength. But it will most likely be the biggest thing you'll ever see up a tree. Apart from a lion, but that's when the lion's alive. I mean the biggest carcass you'll ever see up in a tree. It's quite... I don't think we've seen it on... Well, I certainly have never showed it on a live safari before. In fact, I have never seen it before. Ever. I've seen pictures of it. That was a first for me. And I'm hoping... My one concern is that it was being held on by a scrap of skin. And if he dislodged it last night, then he probably lost it to the hyenas. And then as a result, he's probably moved off. Morning, hippos. Don't worry. You don't have to run away. I'll try and show them to you, but they are moving at high speed. Retreating hippos. They're about to disappear into the forest. Wait! Don't leave. Again, very active for a Sunday morning. It's the Sunday morning jogging club. The hippos here are always shy. Not in Kenya, just the hippos in this particular spot. They spend their days in the Murrum pit, which is essentially it's become an artificial waterhole. But they're going to go vanishing off. There's a river in that line of trees, and they're going to go vanishing off into one of the pools there. But we need to get across that river, so off we go. Ooh. You're still a bit cold, Mila. Come on, you can do it. Mila's got this temperamental thing. She is not a morning car. So when we start her in the morning, start the engine, brrr, doof, dies. She just gets a bit cold overnight. She takes a few goes before she wakes up. It's the vehicle equivalent of pressing the snooze button. So while Mila the vehicle might not be 100% awake, I certainly am, and I'm sure that Brent on the other side is wide awake and on the search for the cheetah.
Well, on our way searching for the cheetah, I just saw lots of bloody hyenas, and about 14 of them in total. But whatever's happened, we're a bit late to the party, and I decided just to come have a closer look. Hello. Looks like you just had a good feed. You can see some of the hyenas are still feeding on a carcass up ahead. But good morning. What an exciting start to the Mara for us this morning. My name is Brent Leo Smith. I have Jahawi on camera, and we're with about 14 hyenas. We are heading down towards Hammerkop, where we last had the 5 boys. But it was definitely too good an opportunity to pass up. Now, you always got to wonder, did these hyenas steal from the cheetah? But whatever they had, it's pretty much done. I'm just going to try to see if we can identify little bits of carcass that are left. Now, remember, if you have any questions for us, hashtag Safari Live. It was a wildebeest. And there's just a patch of skin left. Now, I saw quite a few different hyenas running around with pieces. So he's trying to get a good grip. Off it goes. Jump. Okay, now it looks like an adult wildebeest. Now, in the Mara, the hyenas are very, very capable of hunting something like a wildebeest for themselves. So it's probably not stolen, just because this area, I haven't seen anything else, and only the 5 boys will be able to take down an adult wildebeest. So it's not going to be any of the single cheetahs that are or female cheetahs with cubs around here. A little nip on the bum. There we go. There's some fighting going to happen over the remnants of that carcass. Nip, nip, nip on the bottom. Not giving up. Tails are up. Excitement. Are you going to get a chance to stop and eat? Quickly try wolf some down before the other hyenas arrive. Oh, the light this morning is glorious. As I said, whatever happened a while ago, because there were a lot of hyenas we saw moving from this area with blood all over their faces, very fat. Love 3 Dogs says, I love hyena, they're so bright. They are by far the most intelligent of the predators we get in the Mara. And with an incredible social system, they do make for fascinating viewing. Are you going to get another nip on the bottom? You can see there's more hyena on the other bank there. Yes, there are. In the way in the distance. There we go. You can see one of the big fat ones walking away with a red face. We've got a lot more meat than that poor one who is running around with that carcass. Now, John is wondering, how often do hyenas hunt versus scavenge? John, it completely depends on the area and also completely on the time of the year. So during the migration, the hyenas will do a lot of their own hunting just because there's so much available food, specifically with the wildebeest around. And now, while the migration is gone, although there is still the loiter herd around, I think we're going to see the hyenas doing a lot more scavenging. So there's no right or wrong answer. It just completely depends on when and where you are. So there's hyena clans that I've spent a lot of time with in northern Botswana that hunt far more than they scavenge, and they hunt hippos and North Clan in the Triangle also does that. But again, it seems to be very dependent on the lion populations around. So that hyena clan in Botswana that did almost all its own hunting happened to be when there was a lion pride takeover and a sort of a lion number crash in that particular area, not the population, but in that particular area. The lion prides moved out, the hyena clans got up to 90, 100, and that changes again when another big coalition of male lions comes in and starts killing off hyenas. So it's a constant changing flow. So it all just depends. But I'd say the hyenas in the Mara do, big hole, a lot of their own hunting. Now, so I don't think they stole that from the boys. The boys were sort of down there, yes, last night when we left them. So I'm going to keep scuttling towards that area and hope we catch up with them while they're on the move. Yesterday they had very full bellies, so I'm hoping they've had a busy night of digestion. Colbert's wondering, could the hyenas be taking the leftover kill to her cubs? Unlikely in this situation, Colbert. There were some actual sub-adults around, so I think the den is quite close. It was just on top of this ridge, but it's moved. So I don't think so. And if there had been a hyena taking the remnants to her cubs, it would be quite obvious to be one of the big dominant female hyenas who would have just basically bullied everyone else off the carcass and taken, well, there's the head of the wildebeest, with some more hyenas down here. Look how fat that belly is. And she looks like she's lactating as well. That is a fat hyena. Oh. See, there we go. There's an example of a female hyena taking something for her cubs. And that third hyena standing closest to us is obviously not her cub. And as soon as it comes close, it looked like she might chase it off. And discretion is the better part of valor, as this hyena decides, I'm not getting beaten up by that big brute. Now, even in this situation, even though that she's... Oh, noisy. Hello, you. You coming to say hello? The other hyena's right next to us now, inspecting us. No, I don't have any wildebeest for you. Sorry. You're going to have to go hungry or go catch your own. Still coming closer. Hello? Hello? You didn't get any wildebeest this morning. Now, as I was saying about the... Oh, look. Oh, that's very interesting interaction between the two cubs. Probably leads me to believe that one is a male and female. I think this is pretty much over because she's going to disappear down into the lugger with that hyena head. And we can try stay with her for a little bit longer. Oh, we still got our owner. Decided to stop looking at us and follow the rest. Shame. No food for you. So as I was saying, even though that this is a very big fat female hyena who's got her two cubs with her there, just like that, it's it's probable that she's not one of the higher ranking females. If she was a very high ranking female, she would be able to take a much larger portion of the carcass back to the den and let her cubs feed there. Different animals, it can be different in different areas, and as a general rule, the higher ranking the female, the less likely the cubs are to be out far away scavenging with the adults. Now, the reason for that is that they are the big females are so dominant that they are able to bring big pieces of meat back to the den and let their cubs feed at leisure, whereas the lower ranking females can't do that, because as soon as they bring anything back to the den, one of the higher ranking cubs or higher ranking females that might be at the den will actually steal the carcass from them, and then they've lost the food. So that's one of the reasons you find that why hyenas will cache food as well. So they will store food in spots. Generally, their favorite place to store some food is in a pan or in a body of water, and the reason they do that is so the other hyenas in particular aren't able to smell out their food stores. Okay, so the boys were just over there yesterday, so we're going to go ahead towards Hammerkop, see what's happening. Now, of course, they can cover great distance. Now, yesterday on the evening safari, I was asked, what was the strangest animal I've ever seen in the bush? Well, we're going to send you to that strange animal who's on foot in the greater Kruger.
Well, I suppose, one cannot escape the truth. I suppose I'm fairly strange. Okay, so we're coming along a path between two pan systems, and Herbert doesn't think that was Tingana that was calling. He thinks it was Tundi, and we did find her tracks. The tracks we've lost now, but some of them were heading up back towards the den site, which obviously we're not going to go to on foot, and others were coming down here. So we're just going to check these pans and see if perhaps she hasn't come across here. Also, lions calling. They're probably right on the boundary between Juma and Torchwood, so we might go that way as well. Just quickly, rather than watching me walking through the bush, here is a Torchwood fruit, or Balanites, and it smells like rotting dried apricots. Now, for me, dried apricots are the most foul kind of food. I really can't stand them in the least, and these things smell like those rotting. Very disgusting. I've tried to break open the seeds to burn them before, yet to find any of this oil that supposedly gives them the name Torchwood. I've heard some people say you can eat them. I've heard others say, like Herbert, for example, says don't touch that thing, don't put it in your mouth, you'll get very sick. I'm not sure. Anyway, then we have this rather interesting snail, and I think this is a baby giant land snail that didn't get very giant at all. And just, if you can look on the end there, apparently 99% of snails turn that way. So this one turns clockwise. 1%, or possibly even fewer than 1% of snails turn the other way. And those ones can't mate because their reproductive organs are on the other side of the body, and so when they connect up with each other, they're hermaphrodites, of course. When they connect up with each other, everything's in the wrong place. And it's a totally sort of random genetic, it's not a mutation, it's an extremely rare recessive gene that occurs in these snails. So some of them which are left turning or anti-clockwise turning, unfortunately will never find mates. Isn't that sad?
What if they find a matching partner?
If they find a matching partner, VM, well, the chances would be very small, of course, but then they could mate, I suppose. There we are. Let's continue. It's going to be a cooking hot day today, I suspect. I'm told that it's 20 degrees Celsius, 67 degrees Fahrenheit at the moment, which is very pleasant, but one feels the enthusiasm of the sun on one's face. Herberto, what is the story? We've got tracks on the other side. Herbert looked like he'd seen something. He started crouching. David, you want to know about scorpions and if they're a danger on foot? I'm just going to talk very quietly because Herbie thinks he spotted something. David, scorpions are not dangerous, either on foot or otherwise. They're only dangerous if you happen to lift a rock and put your hand on one, or one climbs into your shoe and then you stick your foot onto it, then they can be dangerous. But you know, by and large, that doesn't happen. The majority of scorpion stings occur when people pick up wood and use it, collecting firewood. And those are normally fairly harmless. They sting horribly. No, there's nothing there. They sting horribly, but they are pretty harmless. There are a few species in this country and on the continent that are dangerous, and one of the ones that we get here, called Parabuthus transvalicus, is a nasty little black thing like that. It's almost sort of olive black. And if that gets you, you're going to be in quite a lot of trouble. And I worked with a person who was stung by one of them one evening, and it was very painful. They took her off to hospital. She spent, I think it was 4 days in hospital, just so that they could monitor her body working the venom out. They can treat it with antivenoms. Sometimes they'll just treat it symptomatically, though, and it has a horrible neurotoxic effect where you'll start to get numb, and you'll feel tingly, you'll struggle to breathe properly, you might vomit, and so really very unpleasant. But that's unusual. We do get them here. I've seen them here, but to get stung by one, you've got to be very unlucky. To get stung by any scorpion, you've got to be very unlucky and careless. Now, Noelle is just over there. She's not far away from us. She's kind of circling this area looking for the tracks. So let's see if she's had any luck.
West thinks I... Huh? Yeah, but she's directing the show, so I'm sure she's dealing with Mara.
Back to us. I'm not sure what happened to Noelle's communications. She didn't have them there. I was going to share a little memory with you. This was the last place that Herbie and I saw Karula on foot. Herbie found her lying right over here. He was coming up the other way. I was on the road. And he found her. It was on Craig's very first walk. And in fact, she was just in here. And Herbert came along, saw her, she just looked up at him and carried on sort of snoozing, and then eventually she got up and she sloped off up here and walked off. We got another 2 views of her on foot. It was very special. Karula, for those of you who don't know, was our very much beloved leopardess. We called her the Queen of Juma, and she used to traverse these areas. A very special leopard who allowed us really spectacular insight into her life, and of course begat our cubs Hosanna and Shongile, and indeed Tanti and Shadow, who were her first litter of daughters, and they've now taken over her territory. She disappeared in March this year, and we don't know what happened to her. Right, also searching for leopard, unusually, all the way across in the Mara, is Jamie Pajamas Patterson.
I don't know if the leopard's still here. The baby giraffe is still in the tree, or at least what's left of the baby giraffe, and interestingly enough, surrounded by a number of very much still alive giraffe. So if we have a look up in the tree, let's have a look there, you'll see exactly where the remains of the carcass are. We've just arrived. That's all that's left. So I think he lost a little bit. He dropped half of it at least. And then around, off to the right, are a number of giraffe that have gathered together. Now, if he were still here, the giraffe would be standing and staring in one direction. They wouldn't be doing what they're doing. So that makes me think either he's very well hidden or he's not here. And the fact that there's a vehicle off to the right suggests that that's where he is. Come, let's go. There's also, of course, as is to be expected, there's also a hyena, but it's quite well hidden at the moment. I'll try and show it to you in a sec. I think he's there. That's where I think he is, because there's a couple of very relaxed topi, very relaxed giraffe, despite, oh, it's just a leg. It's all it is. The rest of it's dropped down and most likely been stolen by hyenas in the course of the night. There we go. So 2 legs, actually, technically. No, 1 leg. That's 1 leg. It's just folded in 2. Bit grisly. Let us not dwell on the dangly giraffe leg. Let's go and find this leopard. I'm sure he's over there. Almost certain. So we at least, fingers crossed, have made it in time. Which is what I was thinking about. Sorry, Raffies. I don't know, and I'm sure it's the first question that some of you are wondering about, is whether or not one of these 3 giraffe happens to be the mother of the rather unfortunate leg that's dangling from the tree, and of course the rest of the baby giraffe that's in the leopard's belly. I don't know. It's possible. It is possible. I don't know how long that giraffe has been dead for. I would guess a couple of days, but the maternal instinct is very, very powerful, and there's a chance that mum was still looking for her little one. I don't know. It could be her. I'm not sure. I'm really, really not sure. Hey, girl. It's too hard to tell. I think that's probably not mum. And the reason I say that is because the youngster on the right is most likely hers. So it would be too soon for her to have had a smaller baby. And then quickly, sorry Archie, I just want to show them something. But I'm going to have to turn the car because you won't be able to get it from your angle. The giraffe is chasing the hyena. Hold on. Okay, I'm going to turn quickly because it's quite interesting. There's the hyena on the left, now running away. And there's the giraffe on the right, now chasing it. Or at least walking in its direction. There's the giraffe over there, walking with intent, and then the hyena is over there, not letting itself get anywhere near the angry female giraffe. Is there a chance that that's the mother? Yes, possibly. If she's feeling upset towards all things predator-shaped, it would make sense. Could also just be a random female. We really don't know. Okay, sorry, Archie. I'm dancing about all over the place. But let's just go and have a look up there. I'm going to search for a relatively large predator, but in true Safari Live fashion, I'm going to send you across with this amazing link. From one of the biggest predators in Africa to one of the smallest carnivores. Let's go and see what Noelle has found for you.
Sorry everybody, I'm having gremlins with my radio for some reason, but we have a wonderful dwarf mongoose who have popped out of their little home inside this termite mound and are busy grooming themselves and each other and warming up for the day. It's similar to us. If you wake up on a chilly morning, you might grab a sweater. You might want to snuggle more into the covers. For them, they come out and then they sort of bask in the sun a little bit. Seb, we have a friend on the dashboard, a really interesting spider. Before it goes away, I just want to show you. Can you see it?
Yeah.
We'll go back to the mongoose just now, everybody. Sorry, I'm starting to become obsessed with arachnids and insects. We keep finding the most amazing examples of arachnids and that beetle thing we had yesterday as well. I asked James about it and he's also never seen it before. So I managed to get a few photos. I'm gonna shop it around and see if anyone can help me. And then this spider, I would assume it's possibly one of the jumping spiders, although it's not one with this little sort of white part that you can see and then the eyes are on top there. It's not one that I've seen before. And it crawled up, it didn't jump. I don't know if maybe it came off of a tree. We were busy investigating that leopard calling that James and them had, and trying to help them out with that to no success, unfortunately. Very, very interesting. Maybe let's take a screenshot and we can check it out later. Thanks, Seb. All right, our mongoose are looking extremely cute, so let's go back to them. I think the most, or I should say the largest business of dwarf mongoose that I've ever seen was probably about 30. And then the sort of average that I've seen is about what we have now, which would be about 8 or so. But I'm sure there's a few more stuck in there. Snazzy, you're wondering if they're eating the termites in the mound. Snazzy, that's a very interesting question. So the holes that they're using inside of there, the termites aren't necessarily living inside those holes. I don't know, Seb, if we can just stop there. That's a really good... Do you guys see these little crevices that are inside? So inside of there are the tunnels sort of like in the walls, and the termites are crawling around in. So and then the big holes that they're in are these sort of valve-like holes, like a piping system to help move warm air in. I can't actually, without getting on top of the mound right now, and I can't do that because I would scare away the dwarf mongoose. I can't show you. I'll see if I can find another one as we meander along the way. It wouldn't surprise me if they eat termites around this time of year when the winged alights come out, the flying ones. But in general, they're not inside of there eating them, if that makes sense. Was hoping for some little babies. The babies of the dwarf mongoose are teeny, 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 tiny, sort of the size of your pinky, and they're absolutely adorable. You see this, see how they're grooming themselves, but then the two at the top are also grooming each other. That's the allo grooming we discuss from time to time. When you have a gregarious species, a species that lives together like this, they touch each other often. Sorry, Chris, what did Bella ask? Are they like ferrets? Bella, yeah, they're similar to a ferret. A marten, a ferret, a stoat, mongoose, they're all very, very similar, yeah. I had a friend that had a ferret. It smelled horrible. I've never smelled a dwarf mongoose, but I can't imagine they smell that bad. You can see just in the couple of minutes we've been with them how much more active they are. They've warmed up. They've had their morning bath. Well, that's rather rude. They've had their morning bath. You guys are live on TV, by the way. And now they're going to start going out and hunting for dung beetles and possibly for snakes and for other sorts of insects. And then as the day progresses, they'll find some shade and then they'll start scavenging and hunting again. And then as it gets dark, they'll go back home and then start the whole process again the next day. The other type of gregarious mongoose that we have would be a banded mongoose. And then other than that, our other mongoose species are relatively solitary. And it's interesting, the dwarf mongoose and the banded mongoose have a very similar diet, as does a slender mongoose, but a slender mongoose wanders around on its own for the most part, although I did see a slender mongoose, a pair and a baby together the other day. It's my first time. And they're all able to... Sorry, you're asking if they bite. I mean, look, I'm sure... Kev, you're asking if they bite. I'm sure if I went to go and try and pick them up, if I would manage to grab one, it would try and bite me. I mean, they are a wild animal. Yeah, for sure. So here's a slender mongoose up here in the corner. It's going to be longer in the body and a long tail. This one's looking rather mean in the photo. Again, similar diet. I've seen these guys on their own attacking snakes. Now, the dwarf mongoose that we have there, we saw the other day with me and with Senzo that they, as a group, attacked that mamba. And the size difference, maybe 3 of these dwarf mongoose together would be a slender mongoose, let's say roughly. So it's interesting how the solitary mongoose and the gregarious mongoose function in a very similar fashion. And I find it interesting the way that they do it, because it would seem as if it would make more sense to be gregarious as opposed to solitary when you're that small. But it seems to work out for the slender mongoose fine. Now, a white-tailed mongoose, which tends to be quite solitary, is much bigger. I mean, a white-tailed mongoose is about this long. What is that, 1.5 feet? And when it walks, it stands just under 1 foot, and then it goes up on its hind legs. So that makes a lot more sense to me, being a larger mongoose species and going out and functioning on its own that way. Yes, they're still crawling around. Philip, you're wondering what social structure the dwarf mongoose have. They're gregarious, Philip, so they live in a little colony, in a little group like this. As far as I know, there's not sort of a dominant one, but I do know that they'll put out a scout from time to time to check things out, similar to meerkats. And I do know that there's fighting amongst the males sometimes that results in a male being kicked away from the group. But other than that, Philip, I actually don't know much more about them socially. I can imagine they have huge amounts of skin parasites on them. David, you're wondering what the biggest predator of mongoose would be. David, I'm going to guess that it's probably something like a snake. And the reason why I'm saying this is where they live inside those termite mounds, snakes will also live in there. And yes, they can kill and eat snakes, but they're not always going to win. So that would be what I would say is a top predator. And then something else that would be a predator would be a bird of prey. Something like a dark chanting goshawk or similar. Maybe even one of our daytime owls, like a pearl-spotted owlet. Glenda, you're wondering if mongoose get mange. Very interesting. They're a mammal and they have fur, so I guess they would get mange. But mange, as far as I understand it, is really attributed to an individual or individuals that have their bodies are not functioning as well as they should. They've got a lot of stress or lack of nutrients. And with these mongoose like this, for them to have that type of stress with resources, they would have to have a very limited amount of food And because of the diet that they have with the insects and with skinks and snakes and things, they're regularly going to be able to in a healthy ecosystem, be able to have food. So I'm sure they possibly can get mange. I've never seen them with mange. I'm sure they get fleas though, living inside and living where they live, and ticks, I would imagine. Can you all hear that hyena in the background, or is it too far?
I can.
Okay. Seb says you can hear it. There's a hyena for the past, say, minute or so that's been calling. Ooh. Which I find interesting. It's warm, it's late in the morning, and it's calling very close to the area in which this leopard was calling. I have a feeling that the leopard that was calling was possibly Tundi, and it's possible that she's gone back to her den, and as you know, the little cubs are too little for us to go to. So if she's still out and about hunting and we find her, fantastic. If not, you never know, maybe this evening. I am excited for when they are old enough to be able to see. Now that's something that's interesting with mongoose and say the cubs, leopard cubs that are that size, or even lion cubs that are that size, so small, so just a couple weeks old. Slender mongoose will attack and kill cubs like that. Dwarf mongoose, I would imagine, if they came into contact, would try a similar thing. Although I've seen it and heard of it more with the solitary slender mongoose as opposed to the dwarf mongoose that we're looking at now, or the other gregarious species, the banded mongoose. Just to give you guys an idea of the size of these mongoose, for our adult viewers, if you hold your hand open, that's about the size that they are, roughly. And then for any of our non-adult viewers, put two of your hands together. Kev, you're wondering how to tell the difference between male and female. Kev, with these dwarf mongoose, you would have to be able to see their male or female parts underneath, which is going to be a little bit difficult. You have to get in quite closely. And then males have a tendency to be slightly bigger, but in general there's not a lot of sexual dimorphism. They look relatively the same, except for their external genital area. All right, let's head back to James and see what he's managed to come up with on his wonderful bushwalk this morning.
Not much, I'm afraid. Leopard is gone. Leopard has skedaddled. Leopard could have gone in any direction. I tried really hard actually to look for tracks on my way in, because I had a feeling that the leopard would have gone wandering away. Lost his kill, dominant territorial male. He would have gone out on patrol because he's probably been on that kill for a little while and his borders have remained neglected. But I don't know where he's gone. I'm searching. I'm doing loops, and I'm doing loops very slowly, and I'm very curious as to what that is. Oh, it is a termite mound. I found a termite mound. Termite mound that looks like a warthog. No, it's definitely a termite mound. So we're all of us together are looping round and round and round, desperately trying to see if we can figure out where this leopard's gone. But those of you who are watching it is a warthog. Those of you watching the sunset safari yesterday, you'll know, I hope there's no car behind me, you'll know how he disappeared into that little bush And if that's what he likes to do, then there's no way we would ever find it. Well, we could, if we got really lucky. Can you see it, Arch? You got it. It was so still. There we go. Oh, it's two. They were so still, they looked like part of the terrain. Of all of the animals out here, warthog have caught me out the most. Thinking that it's a lion hidden in the grass, or a leopard or something. Because all you see is their ears. And at a distance, they look, you're just aware of an animal. We drive around a fair amount, and we look at our surroundings a fair amount. At least 8 hours a day, usually more. And so as a result, your eyes pick up something odd, pick up movement, pick up something that is out of place very quickly. And warthogs are the ones that always catch me out. Hey, you two. You're a bit nervous, aren't you? Why are you nervous? Is it the wind? I'm far away from you, so it's not me. Could it be a leopard wandered through here? We know he likes to wander towards the escarpment. I think we should go look there, because I don't think anybody's gone to look there yet. Let's go check under those gardenia bushes, because if I were a leopard marking my territory, that's where I'd go. Unless, of course, I went in one of the other many directions. I don't know. Let's go find out. Let's go and check. Plus, of course, there's always the added advantage that this is where the sausage tree pride likes to hang out. And I haven't seen them once since I've got back to the Mara. Oh, we'd like to find them. Oh, this poor road. That's been wrecked. Wrecked by rain. I'm going to go and search for, well, I guess anything that I can find along the escarpment. But let's send you back over to South Africa, across to James, who is enjoying the joys of bushwalk and the smaller things.
I am indeed enjoying the joys of the bushwalk and the small things, and in this case the small things are two drop-tailed ants. Now, drop-tailed ants is probably a fairly wide taxonomic grouping, because of course there are so many species around here, but you can see they're called dropped-tailed ants on account of the fact that their tails are
Dropped off.
well, no, dropped off. They sort of face the ground. Have you lost? Do you want some more? We've still got those ones. Here they are. Liam said he was very sort of scathing of my attempts to do this sighting, because he said there are only 3 ants. Well, there are not many of them, but they're moving slowly because it's not hot yet. And you see this one. And they've just sort of come out and they're scuttling about looking for things. And I think what they are is carnivorous. In fact, I'm 100% sure that they're carnivorous. So they'll be looking for the odd insect carcass that is lying about the place. And they're moving very slowly because it isn't warm yet. Here's a whole lot more. Cool, hey? That is the drop-tailed ant, as opposed to the cocked-tailed ant, which has an abdomen that faces the other way. Now, these little chaps, being red and fiery, will give you a nasty little bite if you get in their way. But because I'm so fearless, I might sacrifice myself so that I can just feel it for you. Here's one. Hang on. Look. There was one on my stick. They can sense life, you know. Won't climb onto my hand. Amazing. Look at saying hi to each other. Have you found anything? No, I haven't found anything. Let me just clean my antenna quickly. Obviously they're not working properly. I touched that human thing. Now I can sense the rotting flesh of a dying ground beetle or something like that. Oh, hello, hello. They keep meeting each other and saying hello. I don't know, there's something tremendously therapeutic about watching ants wandering about like this in the sand. Don't you think, Viam? Do you feel that this is therapeutic? Is this as fun as shooting Tundi? Not. He says no, he'd rather be filming Tundi. I find it tremendously therapeutic. They don't seem to be roaming very widely, so I'm not sure how they expect to find anything particularly edible, other than Viam, of course. Alright, on we go. Herbert is around here looking for further tracks of Tundi. We have actually found them, and she came down through here, and now we've lost them. We think she's gone back up towards the road, definitely from this morning, but we're not that far from the den. Just trying to hear. Madeline, you want to know about whether or not they are attracted, this is ants, not leopards, whether or not they're attracted to sugar, like they might be in North America. I think it depends on the ant. You know, some ants will be omnivorous, some will be carnivorous, and some very vegetarian. I think you'll find the vegetarian variety would be attracted to sugar, yes, absolutely. This lot, I think, will be looking for flesh. How they sense flesh, I'm not sure. Those antennae will pick up very sensitive little particles, or very sparsely distributed particles in the air that will drive them sort of towards the food source that they like to eat. And I don't think sugar forms part of that for that particular species. Just some softer sand here, and no sign of the leopard track. So we'll go up and we'll go around and see if we can find young Herbert. Did you? You saw him the other side of the river. Now we will whistle for him. That's where he is. Let's go around this way. He's crossed the drainage again. Okay, on we go. Here's the road that we think he may have crossed. Not he, the leopard may have crossed. On her way again to her little cubs, which we have yet to see. Nothing here. Now the ground is very hard at the moment because of the rain we've had, so tracking, especially leopard, is really hard. But what you want is this kind of soft sand on the road that's been broken up by the cars. If she steps onto this, you'd almost certainly see it, but I don't see anything here. Alright, while we're looking here, I was going to send you back to Jamie, but I'm not anymore. I'm now going to send you across to Noelle, who seems to be exercising her skills as a driver.
Thanks, James. I am exercising my skills as a driver, and we have driven to a giraffe. Now, I have been waiting to find a giraffe for a few days to be able to answer a question about the new breakdown of giraffe species. Okay, so we used to have one species of giraffe and then 9 subspecies across the continent. It has now been broken into 4 species with 5 subspecies across the continent. So this is a South African giraffe. Its new name is Giraffe. It used to be, if I can remember correctly now, Giraffe Leopardus, yeah. So that's one of the subspecies of the now single species of the southern giraffe. The other subspecies is the Angolan giraffe. Okay. Now we then get the northern giraffe, which is another species that's been broken down into the Nubian giraffe, the Kordofan giraffe and the West African giraffe. The third species is now the reticulated giraffe, and that's just by itself. And the fourth is the Masai giraffe, which is just by itself. Okay. And it's very interesting because that then changes the numbers for the species. So something that had been happening with the giraffe conservation movement was that the numbers of giraffes are actually dropping more than people realize. Now, with the reclassification that was done using DNA analysis, oh, what a wonderful oxpecker picking the ticks off that giraffe. How fantastic. It's really great, and the sunlight is beautiful. So before they did this reclassification, this, what was then called a southern giraffe, this one that we're looking at now, which is now the South African giraffe, there's only about 12,000 of them left in the wild. But now that they've done the reclassification, with the Angolan and South African giraffe together, we now have 52,000 left in the wild. All right. Now, just to give those in comparison with the northern giraffe species with all subspecies combined, there's only 5,200 left. The reticulated giraffe has 8,700, and then the Masai giraffe is 32,500. So there's not huge amounts left. There's giraffe out there, but it's interesting how the reclassification has then taken those numbers and in some cases given them, actually in most cases, much larger numbers. And so that begs the question about how are we going to go forward dealing with the IUCN red data list and with giraffe being on there. And it's not anything I have an answer to, it's just some information I want to put out there for you all to think about in terms of where do we go forward with species like this, because it's not just about the rhino and the elephant. It's also about the giraffe and about lion and about wild dog and the ants that James looks at, etc., etc. And that's our meaningful moment for the morning, and we can all sit and think about that. Now, something that Seb pointed out earlier, and you'll just see there at the top of your screen, is that wound on the giraffe's leg. So we've talked a lot about how male giraffes, this is a male giraffe, how they do a thing called necking, which is a type of fighting, and this is going to most likely be a wound from another male giraffe smacking him in the leg like that. So he's still in good condition, this male giraffe. I know that looks a bit sore, but it looks as well like it's been cleaned a little bit, possibly from those oxpeckers we saw earlier. Blood is a huge part of an oxpecker's diet, so we'll definitely pick there. And there's possibly some insects that helped with it. And then, as you know, skin heals. So he's still functioning. And he's an older male, so you would expect an older male like this to have these types of wounds on himself. Giraffes crack me up, always staring sort of into the distance. Did we see that cud ball come back up there? He'll swallow it again just now. Ooh, Brent has something very special for us, something that I would love to see on Juma and we're still looking for. So let's head up to the Masai Mara and see his 5 musketeers.
Males didn't give us the same run around they did yesterday, where we only found them late in the morning. It doesn't look like they've caught anything since yesterday. They've still got reasonably full bellies, but nothing too bad. So we're definitely going to stick out our day with them, see if we get any luck with them on the hunt. They've moved probably about 2.5, 3 kilometers from where we left them last night. And as I said, it doesn't look like they've caught anything either last night or this morning. I think their full bellies are still remnants from yesterday. Now, that one cheetah seems like he might have spotted something through the croton thicket. What have you spotted, mister? The others not nearly as intent as that. Now, remember, this is coming to you 100% live from the Masai Mara in Kenya, and we're with the 5 Musketeers. And they are highly efficient hunting machines. And we are hoping they'll take us on a hunting adventure this morning. Remember, hashtag Safari Live if you have any questions for us. It'd be great to hear from you. Now, yesterday, they didn't do much while we were with them. At least their heads are up today. And if those remember the scientific name for the cheetah, asionics, which means the non-movable claw, referring to their semi-retractable claws, jubatus maned. So even these boys, if you look at him, he doesn't look too chuffed with life, do you? Grumpy face. But if we have a look at the one with the neck turned to the side, there we go, he turned his neck to the side as well. You can see there's still a slight dorsal crest there. Now, when you see cheetah get upset, particularly with each other or with hyenas or lions, they will extend that dorsal crest. And that's where this second part of their scientific name comes from, jubatus, which means maned. So they have a dorsal crest, so when they're upset, they will extend that hair, so sort of like a domestic cat when it raises its hackle, so to speak. So that's where they get their scientific name from. And of course, the word cheetah is originally from Hindi, and cheetah have been extinct in India for a while now. There's only one population of cheetah that lives outside of Africa, and that is in Iran. But critically endangered, the Iran cheetah. It's the only Asiatic cheetah species left. Now, these are, well, there's a lot of debate about cheetah subspecies, obviously, because they have very little genetic diversity between all cheetah in Africa and even the Iranian cheetah. But this is a Tanzanian cheetah. It's a subspecies. It is slightly smaller than the southern African group of cheetahs, and they're about the third largest out of the 6 different subspecies, the Iranian being the smallest. The second largest is the Sudanese cheetah, which occurs in northern Kenya up into Sudan, right the way to the Sid. There's a D'Artagnan sporting his collar. So for those of you wondering why he has a collar on, it is for researchers to keep track of these 5 males. So it is very, very unique to have a coalition of 5 male cheetah. They are unrelated, or some of them are... Oh, what did they hear? A whole bunch of heads turned at the same time. Now, of course, cheetah are often very alert due to other predators. Now, Lucien's asking a question I was asked yesterday as well. What happens when these 5 boys find a female who's an estrus? Are they going to fight over her? Who's going to mate as D'Artagnan? Who's the most dominant in this coalition? Now, that is something we're going to have to wait to see. As I said, they're still quite young. This coalition is new. It still might split up. They might not stay as 5. So it's going to be very interesting to see, and we're only going to be able to see that once these guys find a female that's an estrus. Most of the females around here at the moment have quite old cubs. If you think... Miale, she's got that young male. Malika's got 2 young males. Amani, I haven't seen for quite a while, but she's a bit further south here. And then Amani's 2 daughters, they're probably not quite sexually mature yet, but they should be coming into estrus within the next 6 or 7 months. So it's going to be a very fascinating time to watch all the different cheetah dynamics that play out in the Masai Mara. Now, there is a host of game around. We've got lots of Thompson's gazelles, but these guys tend to ignore the smaller game species and go straight for the main event. We've seen them take topi, Koch's hartebeest, wildebeest, zebra. So they tend to prefer larger prey species, although we also have seen them, as all predators are, being complete opportunists and go after baby Thompson's gazelles. And any baby would be a welcome and easy meal for these boys. Hello, Joy. Joy is wondering, do you hear cheetahs purr in the wild? Joy, you do indeed. I actually could hear them purring a little bit earlier, but unfortunately the wind's quite strong today, so I don't think you're going to be able to hear it. But yes, you do hear cheetahs purr in the wild. Of course, they are one of the only African big cat that can purr, and that is all to do with the hyoid apparatus, or the hyoid bone in their throats. So Smaller cats and cheetah have a solid or ossified hyoid bone, whereas big cats like leopard and lion have a cartilaginous hyoid bone that they can vibrate, which enables them to roar. Cheetahs can't roar. They purr and they squeak and they pip and they make lots of funny noises and snarl. But when you hear cheetahs growling, it's definitely not as intimidating as a lion or leopard due to that ossified hyoid bone. Come on, guys, it's nearly breakfast time. There's something that seems to be catching their attention every now and then. I'm trying to see if I can see through the crotons. As I said, there's quite a lot of game around. There could be a wildebeest there could be more Thompson's gazelles, it could be hartebeest, topi. We can't just see at the moment. But let's hope whatever it is, it gets them up and on the move. Okay, well, we're going to stick with the boys, see what they get up to next. Unfortunately, I didn't hear who we is sending you off to next, so let's go find out whether you're staying in Kenya or flying all the way back to South Africa.
So we have something that those 5 Musketeers, I believe they're called, those 5 cheetahs, that coalition of cheetah brothers would love to eat. Some zebras, yay! So this area that we're sitting on, they did an early burn this year in just this small little patch between, it's basically to make a fire break between 2 roads. In case we get a runaway fire, it helps slow it down. And then we had the beautiful rain, so this green grass has popped up, and it's beautiful and nutritious with these young shoots, and so we're starting to see a lot more zebra, which is fantastic because they're moving in to take advantage of the lush food. Now this is 1, 2, 3, 4. We have got 5 males here. So you'll get a harem of zebra where it's 1 male and anywhere from sort of 2 to about 9 females. Average being around 7 or so, they say. And then you get these little bachelor herds of zebras. Zebras don't really like being on their own. They prefer to be in a group. You get these little bachelor herds, and basically they've either been kicked out of their own harem or they're waiting to steal females from another male with a harem and start their own harem. And so in the interim, they're just having some boys' time. This one has decided it's already a little bit warm, and he's going to stand in the shade. It's interesting. They say that these stripes on a zebra are good for thermoregulation, so basically for regulating body temperature. And something that I was taught many years ago is under the black stripe, the fat layer that's under there is thicker than the white stripe. So black absorbs heat and white reflects. So the oscillation of the stripes across the body allows a zebra to be out in warmer temperatures in more open areas for longer.